And so as I close, I'm going to speak as a liver doctor, a point of personal privilege to address the ACIP meeting scheduled for tomorrow. Folks know I'm a physician. As it turns out, I am a hepatologist, which is a liver specialist, and have published papers on liver disease and have seen people die from hepatitis. That was my practice of how do you teach students how to avoid this and how do you treat the patients that have it. Now, we've heard allegations related to ACIP here today that will need to be addressed. I don't prejudge. I don't know if you're telling the truth or not. And when Secretary Kennedy comes, I'm keeping an open mind. Let me just say that. But I know it's our responsibility and it's our mandate from the President of the United States that we have radical transparency. And I thank the two of you for taking the risk to your personal life to come today. Anything less than radical transparency betrays the trust the American people have given to us and betrays the mandate the President has delivered. One thing that reportedly is going to be discussed at the upcoming ACIP meeting is ending the recommendation for the birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine. Now again, this was my practice for 20 years before I entered politics. More than 90% of infants, let me start over. For those who say, why should a child be vaccinated for a sexually transmitted disease when they're at birth? The child passes through the birth canal and is exposed to the same secretions as one would otherwise. And that passage through the birth canal makes that child vulnerable to the virus being transmitted. Not just hepatitis B, it can be HIV, it can be other things. But in terms of hepatitis B, that happens. If that child is infected at birth, more than 90% of them develop chronic lifelong infection. Now, we'll talk about the consequences of that in a second. Before 1991, as many as 20,000 babies were infected with hepatitis B in the United States of America. And that changed when the hepatitis B vaccine was approved for newborns. And by the way, as Dr. Menorez says, this doesn't mandate. It doesn't say you can't leave the hospital unless you get it. It just says that if the mother accepts, then the insurance company has to pay. It's not mandated. It's just like, mama, if you think it's a good idea, accept it. In the decade following approval of a birth dose of hepatitis B, newborn infection of hepatitis B reduced by 68%. That's in the decade, so that's up to 2001. Now, fewer than 20 babies per year get hepatitis B from their mother. That is an accomplishment to make America healthy again. And we should stand up and salute the people that made that decision. Because there's people who would otherwise be dead if those mothers were not given that option to have their child vaccinated. Now, by the way, there's some who said they've never seen it, so therefore it cannot exist. I want to submit for the record a link to an X thread in which Dr. James Wong from California shares his personal information. This doctor, he was infected at birth. He developed cirrhosis. He almost died. Now, because of modern medicine, that hepatitis B virus is controlled. But he has to get screened regularly and lives with the specter of getting liver cancer because he got cirrhosis when he was infected as a baby. It does occur. It occurs less often now. So we can argue, now that we've controlled it, do we let the genie out of the bottle? If the recommendation goes away and a parent does want the vaccine, insurance will no longer cover it free of charge. She'll be forced to pay out of pocket. With that, this brings us to the conclusion. Any senator wishing to ask additional questions for the record will be due at 5 p.m. Wednesday, October the 1st. Thank you again for the witnesses. Thank you for the audience. You're very respectful. The committee stands adjourned.